Hello, snowboarders of the internet. I'm your host, Avran LeFeber, and this is Top 5s, the only weekly Top 5 show in snowboarding that you care to watch, or don't. I don't know. What are you thinking right now? Anyways, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 mid-level carving boards. These are a little bit more laid back, a little more cruisy. You don't have to be as aggressive with them to really drive them. And, you can still lay a trench when you absolutely have to. So let's dive right into it. Number 5, the Nitro Magnum. It's basically a wider version of the SMP, but a little more forgiving, if you will. So for those of you with bigger feet, this is something to definitely consider. I got on this board and was like, wow, this actually does not suck. Because it had been years since I rode the Magnum, and I was like, wow, this is different. What's nice is you get that power of camber underfoot, so you can really drive aggressively by pushing your knee into the center, loading it up, driving off that tail, disengaging that front foot. But you don't have to be like, oh, I gotta give it all my power and charge and just be like Conan the Barbarian on it. You're more like, Ator, if you know that reference. You know good 80s movies. If you don't know that reference, go IMDb it. You'll thank me later. But this board, it's just kind of a mellow cruiser that you can go rip a turn on. Number 4, the Nidecker Thruster. The flex on this board is super forgiving. You've got that 3D shaping in the nose, which helps funnel snow out to the side. And with the way that this board works, you can drive into that carve with your weight outside the front hip. But once you're locked in, you just sort of ease back on the side cut and let it just arc from one side of the run back to the other. It's not super aggressive. It's also not one of those boards where it's unforgiving and you're going to get bucked around. It is a little bit softer, but it still has some okay dampening underfoot. Number 3, the Nerd Superposition. I love the way that this board rides. You got solid snap from that camber underfoot. Those urethane sidewalls help dampen chatter. And when you get this board on edge, you can lay a trench with it and then pop right out of that carve and just sort of cruise. Maybe pop a little ollie, land on the tail, do a little bit of a butter, and then set the edge in again and just hook it right in and lay another trench. It's one of those boards that when you absolutely need to push it, you can. But for the most part, you can just be laid back and you're still going to have an enjoyable ride with it. Number 2, the Jones Free Carver 6000. Not the 9000, the 6000. The flex on this board, the side cut, it's just going to be your mellow cruiser board for when you're ripping the blues with your family or the kids. You don't have to be on top of it to lay a trench, but when you are, you can lay it over, drag your nipples on the ground, pop right out, get right back over on the heel side, and drag your butt if you need to. It's one of those boards that's like, it's for the everyman type of carver. Honorable mentions, all great options, but just barely didn't crack the top 5 of this list. The Yes Optimistic. They merged the Optimistic with the Y, and it makes it a little more soft and forgiving. It's not as dominant as it's been in the past. The Solomon Super 8. This board, not going to be for everyone, especially if you ride a lot of icy conditions, but if you're getting in softer snow, it sets an easy edge and the flex on it is very forgiving. And finally, we have the Korua Pencil. This is their resort cruisy carver. It's not super aggressive, but when you push it, you can. It's just nice to kind of just sit in the middle of the board, driving it from the back foot, load that tail up and slingshot out of the turn, transition into the next turn, and just sort of cruise from one side of the run back to the other. Like I said, these are all great options, but just barely didn't crack the top 5 of this list. And the number 1 mid-range cruisy carver for 2023-2024 is the Stranda Baru. This is like a party board carver. It's one of those decks you get on, you can just sort of get a little weird with your carves, be a little more laid back, but when it locks in, it hooks, and you can lay a trench with it. This board absolutely blew me away with its versatility. It is such a fun ride, and I have no problem hyping a small brand like this because the more people that support these small brands, the more likely we are to change what's out there on the market. So I really like what Stranda's doing with this board. It absolutely blew me away. It was just such a fun ride. You got on it and you were like, oh man, I'm just laying trenches, having fun, popping side hits, doing little nose rolls and stuff, and then getting right back on edge and ripping another carve. This has been my top 5 mid-level carving boards for 2023-2024. That's right, these Cruisey Carvers. So, do you agree with this list? Do you disagree with this list? Are you going to buy something from this list? Do you own something on this list? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about one or all of these snowboards. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing here and you want to support us further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and well, I got to continue to be your host because TC needs to up his workload. Yeah, I know you're watching this, TC. Better do more. I'm on to you. And I'll see you in another video.